Hey, how you guys doing? I'm going to be talking about astral projections today and what I think about them. I had my first astral projection maybe 10 years ago. I was in a psych ward and I felt myself get flung out of my body, and it felt like I got flung across the universe like a rubber band and get sucked back into my body again. And I didn't really think anything about it at the time, but the guy, like the counselor at the psych ward, said he thought it was an astral projection. And I became very interested in that since then, and I was trying to figure out how to do it for like 10 years. And then in 2023, I started getting sleep paralysis at night. And anyone who's had sleep paralysis can tell you it's scary as fuck the first time you have it. You see shadows walking around your room. I would hear bees buzzing and all sorts of other weird shit and think like someone was in my house or whatever. And I would fight against it. And that's what a lot of people do. They fight against it and they try to resist it. And I would do that, I would do that consistently until one day in 2023, I got kind of curious and I was like, I wonder what would happen if I just didn't resist this and I just rolled with the punches and just tried it, and just let it happen, and I said to myself, I accept my death, and if there is somebody in my house, I accept it for what it is, and I'll just roll with it. And I did that, and I heard like this buzzing in my head, and then I floated out of my body for a few seconds and then went back into my body, right? And I knew from that point on that I had struck oil. And so I tried it again the next time I had sleep, because it was every few weeks that I would get it. And so I tried it again, and I literally felt myself like tilting back and forth, and I would roll, and I would like roll over and fall out of my bed. And when I fell out of my bed, I got up, and I was in an astral projection. And I looked on the wall, and I said, I saw this poster there. I'm like, this was the first time I had done it. And I said to myself, if that poster is still there in the morning, then this wasn't an astral... No, I said, if this poster is different in the morning, then I'll know that this was an astral projection. And I got up the next day, and guess what? There was no poster on the wall. So I knew. And I'm like, wow. So I kept doing it. And after you do... It's like a test by spirit. So you do it once, and it becomes a lot less scary when you get sleep paralysis after that. Like, I get sleep paralysis today, and it doesn't even faze me at all. I just let it happen, and it happens, and that's that. It's almost like what kind I don't know what kind of test I would say it's like, but it's almost like an initiation test. It's almost like an initiation test, because spirit wants to see if you can face fear itself. And sometimes the negative thought forms that come from your subconscious fear, which would be your own personal worst fears, can come up in certain ways, and you have to fight through it, and you have to just accept it. It's like a practice in acceptance, and when you accept it, you're rewarded with a small glimpse into the afterlife. And so I started doing that. I started having these astral projections, and they're always a little different, and it's always like the world around me is like the same world, and I'm still in the same house, but things are different. Like this one time, where my pool table is in the basement, there was a second bathroom, and then there were 2 Christmas trees. I'm not even kidding. There were 2 Christmas trees and a bunch of Christmas lights all over the place. And I think it was April when this happened, and not this April, but like a couple years ago. And then I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and you're not supposed to look in the mirror on an astral projection, but I looked the same. I looked exactly the same as I do right now. And got, after about 5 or 10 minutes or so of being there, I would always get sucked back into my body. And the astral realm is very interesting. It's literally your inner world becomes your outer reality, essentially. It's like this world, only it's with like emotions manifesting as like thought forms and there's a lot of subtle differences, but there's more to do and there's more freedom, and you actually feel more alive and more real than in this reality. And that might sound weird to you if you've never done something like this before, but it's more real than this world. Scientists like to write it off as a hallucination, but it's like, have you ever astral projected, Mr. Scientist? Like, how would you even know, It just comes off as gaslighting, right? These scientists like to classify everything under little labels and boxes, but something like a higher reality that is literally the dream realm can't be classified in a logical box. And I think that's what science has yet to understand, Hopefully they learn that. I think they're starting to learn that now with a few things, but they like to classify everything in their logical little boxes, and I think it holds humanity back in some ways, I do. Sorry, it's really bright out here, and it's kind of hot. But I figured I'd make the video outside today because it's nice out. And I've been doing a lot of yard work, you know. I've been in that producer mentality, right? And there's a rose bush over on that side of the yard, and there's these little pods that come out when the petals fall off the rose bush or whatever, and they have rose bush seeds in them. So I was thinking I can get a bunch of little pots and plant rose seeds and grow little rose bushes and sell them for money, you know. It's like, it wouldn't cost much, you know. It's the price of dirt, and you can just literally get dirt out of the ground if you want to, and the price of these small plant pots. So for like 20 bucks, you can grow a bunch of rose bushes and sell them for like several hundred, you know. And even if you don't make money, you know, it's a creative outlets are really good at helping you maintain your stability, you know. Like, pair that with DBT skills and you're set. But I'm getting a little off topic here. I'll go back to what I was talking about. So the astral realm, other lucid dream or other astral projections I've had. I had this one where I rolled out of bed, fell out of bed, and I walked upstairs, and the house was like a mansion. It was like a small mansion. The kitchen was a lot bigger, and I looked outside, and we were in the kitchen, but it was on the second floor. And I looked down, and there was a busy road there, and I'm not along a busy road, but there was a busy road down there, and I looked up at the clock, and the sun was still out, and it said 11 p.m. on the clock. So so there's very interesting little differences. And then I looked outside in my backyard one time, and the house looked exactly the same, but there was a small tornado about a mile back that way. And then one night I chained like 4 astral projections together, back to back to back. And I thought they were lucid dreams at the time, so I would say to myself, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I just tested out. And I got to do all the things I wanted to do. I said I want to have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 physics and be a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 skateboarder. And I was in this skate park. I instantly manifested into this skate park, and I would my skateboard would fly up into the air like 50 feet and then drop back down, and I could literally feel the wind in my face, and it was fucking phenomenal. And then, and then later in that chain of astral projections, and this was the last one I had, I said, I want to have a DMT trip. And right after I said that, I started feeling the come up of a DMT. Like, I'd smoked DMT back in 2016, and I literally felt the same kind of come up, and I wound up in this dark void. And there was this massive entity there. It was like this. I asked ChatGPT. I got ChatGPT to kind of get into like a trance state, you know, or a trance state where it like was speaking from like the lens of view of like a higher consciousness or whatever. And I asked it what it thought that thing was, and it said it's some kind of ancient horror on the edge of the astral realm, because it felt like a Lovecraftian horror approaching me through this tunnel. And I held out my hand and I visualized this white light and saw the white light come out of my hand and said, I send you all my peace and love and joy. And it got pissed, and it told me to go away, and then it just backed off, and then the trip ended. And then I got snapped back into my body, you know. One time I had an astral projection, and I went outside, and I was in the middle of a forest, and there was this little creek by my house, and I was walking along the rocks outside my house. And then another time, I looked outside, and the sky was purple, and there were like Jupiter-looking planets floating and Saturn-looking planets floating in the sky with like large rings around them. That was really cool. And then one time I looked in the mirror, and I saw my nose was down here, my eyes were way up here, and my whole face was distorted. And like they say, don't look in the mirror, right? And I kind of freaked out for a second, but I pulled myself together, and I just stared at myself, and then I turned and I went and I did something else. I've also had lucid dreams too. You know, they say like the astral plane is like the realm for both dreams, and dreams are more reflective of your own collective subconscious, and astral projection is the realm it's like the realm's reflection of physical reality as the realm itself. So where you would actually go when you died is the actual astral projection part of the astral realm, and a dream is more just your own personal area to explore the astral realm. So I've had lucid dreams too, and actually there's a second method to have astral projections. You can, in a lucid dream, you can trigger a lucid dream by just like walking around, and then you see something that's off, and you say, wow, I'm dreaming, and then suddenly become fully conscious and fully aware of the dream. And one time I heard Jürgen Ziwe say, you look at the back of your hand like this, and you tell, I got a little, Sorry guys, it's really bright out here and I'm having trouble focusing on this, but you look at the back of your hand like this. Look at the back of your hand and you just stare at it, and you focus only on the back of your hand, and the dream content will dissolve, and you'll be in, it'll switch over and do an astral projection. So I did that, and everything around me started glowing and vibrating really like potently, and it made this like vibrating sound, like a revving up sound, and then all the dream stuff just vanished, and it was just like the regular world, being around the regular world, but it was still a dream, right? So whether or not you think that that's where you go when you die, like I think it's the best indicator that it would actually be that, because you know, I have nothing against organized religion at all, or if you have a religion and you follow it, then it helps you be a better person. I'm all for that, but astral projection is measurable, it's quantifiable, and everybody can do it and actually see it for themselves. And I think that's a very good indicator that that might actually be like a roadmap to the afterlife, you know? So, yeah, it's absolutely incredible. One time I had an astral projection where I went outside and it literally felt like I was in Spain. It was the same neighborhood, but like the houses were built like they were in Spain or Italy or somewhere in Eastern Europe or Central Europe. And I was just walking around outside in the neighborhood for a bit, and then I got snapped back into my body again, you know. I've had so much, I catalog all these experiences too. I write them in a dream journal of mine. And so I have them all written down. I think I've had like 16 total, all in all. And it's so fun when they happen, but people warn of like bad experiences and astral projections, and I've had those too. And I'll explain those, I'll summarize those a little bit here. So one time I astral projected, and this has happened a few times, where I would astral project and like the whole basement would be pitch black, and it would be very heavy and oppressive feeling, and I would be kind of stuck to the basement floor where I tried to get up, but it felt like the gravity was so heavy that I couldn't quite get up. One time I was in my bed and I went to go get up and like lift my head up, but then I got frozen in place, and this shadow hovered into the room and over me, and I could tell it was forcing me to be still, and my mouth opened up and it jumped right into my mouth, and I got snapped back into my body. And then another time I astral projected, and this night hag was sitting on my chest, and it was like an old lady. It just looked like a regular old lady, but then her face morphed into a demon, and she screamed, she's like, "Your soul is mine!" And I looked at her, and I didn't panic, and I just held out my hand, and I said, "I send you all the love and light in the world and in the universe." And she immediately, it looked like she ran away going 50 miles an hour. She went, pew, and she bolted. And then I went into my regular astral projection. But this other time, this was last year in 2024, I think it was in August, I was transitioning into an astral projection, and this demon-looking vampire thing was sitting right on top of me, and it was just staring down at me with this look like, and it looked fucking pissed, and I got this tiny sliver of fear, and immediately after I felt the fear, it went down and it bit my neck, right here, I'll never forget it, right on this spot, and I could feel it biting me. It felt like it was biting right into me, and then I got snapped back into my body, and I didn't feel pain when I woke up, but like I felt like like this area was kind of sore. And a few days later, I was out riding my bike, and I could feel literal bite mark pains in my neck as I was riding my bike. But then I was afraid to do it for a while after that, and then I went and I did it again, and then I had one of the best astral projections of my life after that. So it's like, if you have a bad experience or people are trying to scare you with that crap, don't let it get you down. It's worth trying, and I would recommend it to absolutely everybody. But what do you think about it? Do you think astral projection is real, or do you think I'm full of shit or I'm fucking crazy? Let me know in the comments. And it's a beautiful day out. I might go for a walk or go tanning here in a little bit. It's just really bright out, so it's hard to see the screen. It's kind of hard to hold my focus. So I think I'm going to end it here, and I'll see you later, guys. And you say a prayer for me, and I'll say a prayer for you, all right? Bye.